Hey, welcome to our video series, the State Skills USA Contest, Robotics and Automation. We have watched a series of videos to get to this point now where we have asked whether it was metal or plastic, and we went ahead and hunted down the defect. Now that we have, assuming that there's no defects in this particular piece, we're going to want to move it to the proximity sensor that will then check whether it is metal or plastic. Now the thing that you see here at the bottom of the screen is that sensor box. The red dot is the defect sensor, in which it's checking for that dot. And let me just put a cube on there. You'll see the dot light up in the back. So we looking for input number 3 to come on, and when it is, it's saying that that side is good. If I place the position where it doesn't have that defect on it, where it does, then notice that the light doesn't come on. Where it's clean, it does come on. So we're looking for that input number 3. So at this point, we're assuming that we've gone through the whole scenario. So I'm going to have it grab a cube off of the gravity feeder using our signature Obama move. And we're going to come down here to position number 5, which would be at the bottom. And then we'll move it to the proximity sensor. Let's program that so that it can make that decision. And then we'll go from there, and then we'll place it. Now, at this point, we're going to grab, today is the plastic cube, and we're going to put it, if you can see, just on the other side of the gravity feeder. You can see some squares on the table, and that's where we want it to move to. As soon as we get over there, I'll stop the video, and then we'll reposition, and then we'll be right back. So let's start it from the home position. It'll check to see if input number 1 is on, which it is, so that means there's a cube there. Doing our Obama move, keeping the stack from falling down. We'll move over here to position 5, and that's where I'll stop it. All right, so now let's get down here to the bottom, and we want it to move forward onto that proximity sensor. Well, I've taken the time to position those and program those points just to save us a little bit of time in the making of our video. So the one that's going to move it up over the proximity sensor, I've called position number 12, which will move it forward. So let's watch it do that. And I think by now you guys all know how to create positions with this robot. You do that down here by expanding those positions. If you wanted to take a look at what those numbers look like for number 12, I would just hit here, and you see that we expanded the X, which comes out away from the center of the robot. We still have our -5. We still had it at the same height position. All we've done is just moved it forward. Now position 13, I have changed the Z value, and it will actually move down on the sensor. And then we're looking for the light to come on, input number 6. Now, since it's plastic, that number didn't come on, because if you remember from our studies, that proximity sensor only senses metal, so we can use that to our advantage. So now we have to have the robot make a decision. Anytime we're asking it to make a decision, we have to have a wait time, because the robot program moves faster than the robot does. So we've been putting 25/10 of a second, and now we have to write that formula that will say and we want to look for something that's true. So if input number 6 is on, we want it to move to the series of commands that we're going to have it do for metal. But now, because this is a false statement, we're going to have it come over and get to our plastic position so that we can create those and put those into the particular squares that the judges would ask us then to put on. So at this point, number 12 lifts us up off the stack. So let's go back to position 12. And I've created a position 100 to get us over to the stack. I did that a little while ago. So let's have it move to 100. And once it gets there, then I'm going to pause the tape and then reposition the camera, and I'll be right back. Hey, we're back live. Reposition the camera. So again, this is a really good opportunity if you want to use the teaching pendulum, which is right here, to be able to create these points for yourself, to be able to set it back down on the table. I've gotten pretty good at it, so I can pretty well hook up the numbers where I want it to go to get to that position. Now, again, earlier today, I went ahead to save us some time on the video. I've created a position number 1 for that, to have it go right there. And I called it position 101. But the other thing that we want to do with those, rather than having to write a whole new series to get it over to the next square into number 2, we could set a variable that we could give it a name, and let's call it drop. But in order to do that, I want to actually create that variable way up here at the top to start it, so that when we get going, let's going to start it right at the beginning. So we created and changed the name of position 101 to the word drop. So we want to have that done right away at the beginning. And then when it gets down to this position where we want it to set it down, then let's call it, instead of 101, let's call it drop, which is equivalent to position 101. So let's see if it does it. And sure enough, it did. Beauty. We're liking that. So there it did it. Now, it's only going to find that one time as it begins, and it's going to create that drop equals 101. So we don't need to do that ever again, because when we come back to the loop position, it's going to start right here. Now, you could put this either place. You just need to do it before you get into the loop, anywhere in between number 1 and number 5, and we chose to leave it and put it at position number 3. Now let's go to the bottom and try something else. Now, because those two positions are so close, maybe we don't want to open the claw all the way up. Let's just open it part way, and we have the ability to control that. It's called the jaw command. And what I discovered earlier today, that a percentage of openness to the number 55 seems to open the jaw just enough to leave it there. And now let's go back to position 100. and it didn't touch the cube, and there we go. So now we need to go back and we can restart this, but we have to do one more thing before we leave here. And before we leave here, we have to create that new variable, so that we need to add one position to the word drop. So instead of the, remember drop was 101, we want to add 1 to it. So we want to plus 1, now making it 102. So now instead of being 101 like we did here, we got down here to the bottom and we changed it to 102. So now when it goes back and when it runs this series again, it's going to go to drop, but that's not 101 anymore. That's position 102, which would be the second position on that piece of paper. So now we're all good to go. Let's send it back up to the top. So let's jump to loop. And I'm going to hit the button again. It'll go back, grab a cube, and then it'll come back to 101, and then we'll pick it up from here. And then we'll see if it can then choose to set it down at position 102. So let's go. I'm going to jump up to loop and then run it till it begins to position number 5. It's going to go out of the screen here a minute, because we've seen all this already. Just see it up in the corner just a bit. So let's have it come. Now we've assumed that it's done 12, 13. We already know that it's a plastic cube. So let's have it come over here to 100. And now let's see if indeed it's going to get us to 102. Now I think I hit that again. I bet you it's going to try to go to 103. Let me do this. So let's just go 101. Let me hit this now. Make it 102. And now let's see. We'll go from over here to position 1. And let's see if it drops it at 102. Only done this 3 times today. Look at that. And off it goes. So now it jumped to the top. And we're ready now. So I've got metal cubes stacked up in there. So what it's going to do is going to look for the defect. If it finds a defect, then we actually have to add that back to the program, to where at this particular point right here, we would have to add our defect series. And that defect series I had as would move to position number 5, move to a position 10, which is on the other side of the board, open up the grip so it drops back into the trash bin, and then would go back to the top, and then we'd start all over. But for today, this finishes up our video of doing the process of a plastic cube and setting it down into the 2 positions. We did very, very well. You can see that we're all within the black area of that cube. Now, if we had a 3rd cube, then it would be looking for position 103 and possibly position 4. But they have these labeled plastic and metal. So if you would get to nationals and they don't have a conveyor belt, then they would be using these other 2 positions. So you could still use these in setting a variable to create a position 103 and a 104, but they would be listed then in your series where it would say metal. You jump to that word or that label and then create those positions. Now you could still use position 100 in that series as well. and still then get your situation set. Because right now, once we've run through this, this now has become not position 102 anymore, but now it's 103. And you could actually use position 103 then and create in the number 1 slot for metal and number 2 slot for metal. So that's it for today. And as they say at the gas station, we'll see you next time.